Hey guys, I finished up with power supply audio amp section and reinstalled the RF deck. Pretty sure I got all the wiring back the way it was originally. So I'm going to flip this down, repopulate the tubes, pull out the speaker, and try to fire this thing up for the first time. Okay, got all the tubes back in except for the rectifier. Now these three wires coming out here, these are for the shorting switches that would go up on the automatic tuning mechanism. Just shorts out, one of them shorts out the audio right there, is right off the center wiper of the volume control. And the other one, I believe, is this guy down here. So, those don't need to be connected right now. And with the rectifier tube out, I just want to try powering this up and see that all the tubes light up. In particular, I want to make sure I got the filament connections right to this RF chassis, which I had to remove and then reinstall. So, turn the overhead lights down a little bit. And put the PR57 on. And flip that on. And yes, we have tube illumination, including on the RF chassis. Can't see the 6A8 because it's a metal tube, same with the 6H6, but the others are lit up. Okay, so next up I will pull out the speaker to complete the power supply. Circuit's field coil from the speaker is used. I'll pull it out of the cabinet, I guess. I got no choice about that. And I will pop the rectifier tube back in and then get a DC voltmeter on B+. And give this a try. Okay, I got my DC voltmeter right at this point, across the 8 microfarad. Got the rectifier tube in, got speaker plugged in, so let's see what we get. He is on. Excellent sign. So I don't have a dead short anymore. Volume control turned down. Alright, tube's lighting up, or warming up, drawing more current. I'm out of the speaker. And power supply is holding steady. Hey, how about that? Well, that's with no antenna.
We both know he's not sensitive about being questioned about.
Cool. I guess I didn't screw up too badly. I can assume that's the broadcast band I'm in right now.
I also think that when it comes to somebody being an advocate for something or representing something,
there's the shortwave bands.
that should be completely on his terms. It's just the against the current.
Guess I'll get an antenna hooked up and
And to donate, go to cardsforkids.com.
see if the reception gets even better.
It's quick and easy. You'll also get a vacation voucher and maximum tax
Sticking my finger in the antenna back here.
1877 Cards for Kids.
Oh, I hate that commercial. Okay, hooked up an antenna, about 12 feet long.
Thanksgiving. Present your request.
Can I please have $10?
There's going to be a time when some of your
Travel time 45 minutes O'Hare to downtown, outbound 35, the Eden 35.
No, I haven't tested any tubes, doesn't align with anything like that. So it's kind of impressive it's playing as well as it is. Try on the shortwave band, see if we get anything. Let's try the last one. definitely doing something.
There's a naval blockade.
Yeah. Very hard to tune this with just my hand directly on the tuning shaft with no gear reduction. Alright, I'll find out for sure when I do the alignment procedure, but it does seem that it's pretty much working as it is. Now, it's definitely very cool that it's working, but remember, it was working before I actually started. It's working better now, but I did get AM reception before I did any of this work. Now, one thing I've just been playing around with a little bit is the magnetic tuning. So, there's a discriminator here and an oscillator control tube here. Right now, it's on, and then it's off. I believe that's the way the switch is going. Tell it's definitely doing something. So if I take this tube out, it has an effect. But it's not having as much effect as I think it should. And by that I mean, if I tweak the tuning a little bit, I'm not really hearing any correction. I thought that it would pull the oscillator over a bit. Or when it's turned on, as I tune this, I thought it would kind of be stickier, so to speak, as I tune past it on the dial. And I'm just not seeing any difference with it being in or out. Now maybe the effect is so subtle, I'm not going to notice it while manual tuning, but I kind of thought I would, because remember, the reason they have this kill switch on the front is so that when you're going on the automatic presets, it won't lock on to a station as you're going by other stations. I think it's got a pretty decent pull range when it's working properly. So I definitely want to check these two tubes and check the voltages on them, etc. So I also remember that it looked like somebody had been tinkering with it, because a couple of these wires weren't soldered onto the kill switch on the front. They were just wrapped around. So I wonder if there's something up with it. The very simple thing to do is, of course, to check the tubes, so I will do that first. The tubes aren't working right, it's not going to work right. Well, the tubes checked out good. Couldn't find any wiring problems. Voltages seem okay. So I decided to go through and try a little alignment section about the magnetic tuning adjustment. Well, it turns out that is this guy right here. So I went through and I just did a quick peeking of the IF primary, secondary, and that little thing down there. And this guy. Now I'm trying to adjust that. It's really not having any effect. Let me boost the signal a little bit so you hear that faint tone in the background. And, you know, when I adjust this, just with the magnetic tuning in, and again, really no effect. You're supposed to adjust this so you get a max. And it's really not doing much of anything. This is supposed to be a variable capacitor. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is pop off these two nuts and take a look inside and make sure that this is actually doing something. I'm just rotating this little set screw. It's not actually turning anything inside. Here it is with the shield removed. So one portion of this will be a conventional primary and secondary for the IF, and the other portion is a discriminator. And here is the variable cap I was wondering about. And unfortunately, it is working. So, I turn this. Yeah, it's definitely turning around. So, still something not right somewhere. Do with continuity in that discriminator coil. But, well, I will keep investigating. Alright, well, I I swapped out tubes, tried some different 6N7s, 6H6s, ended up putting the original 6N7 back in. Nothing was having much effect. I was checking the voltages below. The voltage on the plates of the 6N7 are actually low. I was mistaken earlier. It's supposed to be 260 according to this. I get about 170, 180. Well, that voltage is derived from this bleeder network so right off rectifier here we have 10K, 15K, and a 51K to ground. This tap right here, we got a 60 microfarad filter cap. It goes over and around to the center tap and under the plates. So this must be a variable permeability core, I'm guessing, which means the inductance can vary with the strength of the magnetic, or the current going through it. So as this control tube, one triode versus the other goes on, it's going to alter the current going through there and tweak the frequency up or down. Also, the 10K is running pretty hot, but there's really nothing else. All there is this other 10K here, and that checks out fine. Well, I just twiddled around with this core a bit more, and now it seems to be working. I still have much lower plate voltage than it calls for. Oh, and the other voltages seem okay. So, like, things that come off of the other tap seem alright. And my overall voltage is a little low, too. They show it here that should be 335 across this cap. I've got more like 290, 295. But other voltages, like on the output tubes, I do have around 250, 260, and similar on other tubes. So I'm wondering, are there some mistakes in that? Okay, let's see if I can demonstrate this. So, I have magnetic tuning off. And I'm off of the station. It sounds very distorted. I'll turn the magnetic tuning on.
Being that it's an election year.
It takes a little while, but now it is locked in.
Bipartisan criminal justice bill that was mentioned by President Obama.
Turn it off. Sounds terrible. Turn it on.
Otherwise, their lives are going to be compromised. In some cases, they're going to be ruined.
Turn it off again. Turn it a little bit better, and I think it'll lock in faster.
Sailors recently taken into custody by Iran has a local connection. The 27-year-old Navy commander seen apologizing after two U.S. vessels sailed in Iranian waters, once lived in Naperville.
Very quickly, it locks in better.
We did not mean to go into Iranian territory water.
Lieutenant David Narker attended St. Raphael Grade School through 8th grade and graduated from Benet Academy in Lisle.
So what did I do? Well, I was playing around with this capacitor more. All I think is maybe when I took this shield off, and I did clean around in there a little bit. Maybe since I get a better connection. I know I still haven't locked this back down.
President Obama and 140
Trying not to mess things up here, but
taking questions on Twitter.
show you the effect this has now.
The night the Affordable Care Act passed.
So it's very subtle.
The president tweeted,
So it's off a little now.
Against bias and stereotypes. One tweeter asked President Obama,
Still
an avid
off.
basketball fan, George Bryant or Jack.
No, it's really off. It would be easier with an RF generator, but I'm just doing it by ear now with the broadcast tape. So you can hear it's all very distorted now.
Probably would have been a good hockey player had he tried it. Artem Anisimov will play tonight for the Hawks. He's been sick the last couple nights. Will play,
It's
though.
pretty clean.
Eric Gustafson will not. He's got a lower
Turn this
body
off.
injury. Corey Crawford will have
Put
the
up
net.
station a little.
With our very own FJ.
Let's see if we can lock.
Pau Gasol will not
Alright, cool.
not travel with the team.
That is working.
Joakim Noah starts in his stead.
Now, I'm curious, when I leave this turned on and I tune around, what kind of effect does that have?
Sprain that's been getting worse. I've only won 4 games all season, though. Or hired Chip Kelly today. The Giants hired 30. He'd been the team's offensive coordinator the last.
That's with it engaged. Let's do with it off.
Practice today, and reportedly needed an.
Yeah, it has a much shorter range when the station's coming in clear.
Saturday afternoon. First look, Chiefs. Go Chiefs. You're rooting for the Chiefs.
Put it back on again.
Brady effect has him on top of the pulse. is. Could be a
It's
weird
locked in.
diet. I don't know.
It does take a little while. The further you're off, the longer it takes to lock in.
Is making him
Are you sure it's not the
And
weird
now I'm
diet
turning
that
this.
Giselle has him on? Yeah, the not eating anything that's
Quinoa, yeah.
nuts, kale, and weird stuff.
I don't mean they're eating nuts. I mean they're both
They're both crazy. Yeah, they're both absolutely crazy.
Alright, now one last thing about that voltage. I did notice in the production changes, where'd that sheet go? There is mention of changing the values of those bleeder resistors. And clearly right here. So here's that 10K, 15K, those two big dog bone power resistors are replaced, and then a 51K. New parts, 7.5K, 9K, and 32K. So all the values are less than they were originally. I don't know if the ratios are all that different, though. I haven't crunched the numbers. It says it was done, bleeder resistor change to correct voltages of screens and oscillator. Now that's for a code 125, whereas the service info is for a code 121 that I've been going through, which matches mine pretty well. So what I'm not sure is about should I make those changes or not. I'm thinking by lowering all these values, what you're going to mean is there's going to be more current going through this, which will decrease the overall B plus a bit, but also means that this will be more stable. In other words, if there's current being drawn from those taps, you want the current through the bleeder resistor to be more than the tapped current, so that the tapped current doesn't alter the ratio of this voltage divider. However, it seems to be working all right now, so I'm inclined to leave things as they are. I'm curious to see if I put the other 6H6 in there, how that works. So these are kind of hard to find. This is a 6H6G. Far more common to see these little metal 6H6s, but this is the early glass type. Dual diode in there. Similarly, 6N7G, whereas this is the GT style. I got a whole big bag of these. And there's also a metal version of it. Now I already checked under here. Pin 1, which is the shield for these tubes, is going to ground on these. So I can either stick with G-types and put the shields over the tubes, or I could go with the metal types. Would not want to go with the G. Well, I guess I could go with the GT as well, and just put the shield over it. Now, why wouldn't you just go with G's for everything and call it done? Well, they're harder to find. They weren't made for as long, and they weren't used as much. RCA would use the metal tubes and GE and so on. It was really Philco that was the holdout, because they didn't want to do things the way RCA did it. They didn't want to pay them any royalties. So they used the G-types. Let's pop this guy in here. And for the heck of it, let's try one of these other 6M7s too. When I cleaned out a old TV radio service shop, for whatever reason they had like 100 6N7s. This is the first chance I've ever had to use them in anything. And notice the 6A8. No, that's the tube that came with this radio. It's already been changed to a metal type. Now, I'm pretty sure I can dig up G types for all of these. Like I dug up a couple 6F6 Gs. I had 6V6s in there, which seem to work fine. They're actually more efficient. They're beam power tubes versus power pentodes. They have lower filament current and they have higher gain.
Road to the junction,
Plus,
17 back out.
there's plenty of gain as it is. Alright, so magnetic tuning out. Magnetic tuning out.
45 on the flip.
Yeah.
Stevenson inbounds, 45 minutes from 3:55 to Lakeshore Drive, 52.
I don't think I explained why they invented this. Oh, I also dug up the patents for this because I was curious to see how it worked. So I'll post links to those so you guys can see.
like day around the Chicago area today, but
See, if you want to spend the time digging through the theory and see the patent applications of how this works.
clouds will increase and a shower.
It has to do with phase difference. I was wondering how they did it without a limiter. Well, it's a phase comparator, the way the circuit works. I don't know the details of exactly how it works, but finds the phase difference. So, why did they come up with this? It wasn't just for people who are sloppy with their manual tuning. It all has to do with this. as well as precisely as they made this, it still has some slop. So when you lock in a preset, quite often it's off a little bit, and the station won't be perfectly locked in. Hence the AFC. So the AFC is actually there to correct for slight mechanical tolerance issues with the preset tuning. Oh, and I did find a proper set screw for that. It needs to be tightened down a bit, but it is the right threading on that. 832 was the answer for that. That was the correct thread pitch. So I'll tighten that down, and then I'll see about remounting this. And get those dial lights up in there too. But before I do all that, I guess I should wire in that replacement tone control. Because putting a tuning mechanism on there does make things a bit bulky. So I think I'm going to finish off this segment here with the functioning magnetic tuning, and then start cleaning up things down below.
Which I'm not sure I noticed too much before.
Yeah, no,
spending time in York County and
it's bad.
Geneva and Racine.
No, really, that's not
And
Wisconsin.
well, that's what I'm saying. You don't hear it there.
Wisconsin doesn't start until you get north of Madison.
I'm not going to hang on, I'm not going to leave you just yet. I just plugged in the 4 light bulbs that go around the automatic tuning mechanism. So when you're normally in just manual tuning mode, you just get the 1 dial lamp. When you put on magnetic tuning,
He gets arrested on a murder.
bam.
And it's a murder. He says he did not commit.
That's going to look cool in the cabinet.
And this
All that
documentary,
illumination around the tuning mechanism.
is an advocacy journalism piece which is making the argument that he did not do this and that he was once again railroaded because he was threatening the livelihoods of these other officials from Manitowoc County who are responsible for wrong